It's finally time. We're going to talk about Giyu Tomioka today because I am just dying to speak about this man. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. And like the opening said, today we're going to discuss Giyu Tomioka. He is my second favorite character in Demon Slayer, only second to my favorite character in all of media, which of course is my son, Tanjiro Kamado. But I think that now that Giyu's backstory has been animated, people are finally starting to see why he's such an important character to so many people and why we love him so much. Because I think that his character is a little bit different in a world where everything kind of is the same. Now, before we dive in, I will not be dipping into manga spoilers until I say I do. So if you are anime only and you don't want to get spoiled on things that are going to happen in the future, you can watch this video until I tell you to stop. But for my manga readers, you can watch the entire thing. But I like to keep things separated so that if you do want to watch part of it, you can absolutely do that and then come back, put a pin in it, watch it later once you've read the manga or the anime has caught up. So don't worry, I will let you all know when I start dipping into things of the future. But for now, we're going to discuss things that have been animated all the way through the newest episode, which of course aired just this past Sunday. So if you have not watched it yet, the non-manga spoiler part is still going to touch on a lot of what happened there. So make sure you watch episode 2 of Hashira Training before watching this video at all, and you'll be all good. But let's talk about my love, Giyu Tomioka. Side note, apparently at the Anime Expo Demon Slayer panel last year, I genuinely do not remember this, but they played the little teaser for Hashira Training when it was just like the pictures of each Hashira. And I do remember getting out of my seat when Giyu Tomioka appeared on the screen and pointing at it. According to my friends, I shouted, "That's my husband." He's not my husband. I have a real husband. I think I was just... my soul left my body. I had no control. But there is a reason for all of this, and that is because Giyu Tomioka, to me, is one of the most well-written characters in Demon Slayer. Giyu Tomioka is a character that we as an audience have known since the very beginning. He was a Hashira that was not a big reveal at the end of the season like pretty much everyone else outside of Shinobu. He was the one who saved Tanjiro and Nezuko in the very first episode. He is the one who chose to protect them rather than kill one or both of them. Nezuko because she is a demon, and Tanjiro for trying to protect a demon. I could go into severe detail about why it was important that Giyu Tomioka was the Hashira that was there that day, rather than pretty much any other Hashira showing up. There would have been no story because they would have ended both of them then and there without even a second thought. But even though Giyu has been in the story since the very beginning, we as an audience don't know him as well as pretty much any of the other Hashira that we have met so far. He's been extremely mysterious, he's been extremely cold-hearted, and most people just don't understand him. Us as an audience don't understand him, and the characters themselves don't understand him. However, we got little moments here and there throughout Season 1 where we saw possibly a little bit of a different side of him. I mean, first things first, we saw empathy in Episode 1, right after he shouts at Tanjiro and seemingly is being extremely rude to a boy who just lost his entire family and telling him to not cry. We see inside his thoughts, and we see instead that he has empathy for him, that he understands him, that he doesn't want him to cry, that he wants him to take this pain that he's feeling and turn it into revenge. It's ever so slight, but it is the first pebble that we see of Giyu Tomioka's true heart. He believes in Tanjiro and Nezuko enough to not only decide to save their lives, but to also send them to his former master, where he believes that Tanjiro has the ability to not only master water breathing, but to become the future water Hashira, a position that Giyu currently holds. We then fast forward to Mount Nataguma, where we are reintroduced to Giyu Tomioka, and he still is extremely quiet. Shinobu is constantly trying to start conversations with him, and he gives her 1 to 2 word answers the entire time, that he's just there for work. And while he saves Tanjiro, he does that simply out of his job. He does not even remember who he is until he stares at Nezuko with the bamboo for a hot minute. And I'll forgive him for forgetting about him, because in that moment, even though it took him a while to remember who Tanjiro and Nezuko were, the moment that he remembers, he instantly goes on the defense and is willing to fight his own colleague to protect them. Yet another sign that possibly Giyu has a side to him that wants to protect people, but he doesn't know how, essentially. Giyu puts it all on the line to protect Tanjiro and Nezuko, trying to stall Shinobu and then chasing after her. I don't think people realize Shinobu is technically the fastest Hashira, while Giyu is somewhere in the middle, and he was able to catch up with her. He was giving it his all to keep Shinobu from getting to the Kamado siblings and killing Nezuko. The protection continues on when we get to the Ubuyashiki mansion, and during this scene, we find out that not only was he the one who let them live and send them to Urokodaki, he also has agreed to commit seppuku, which I think we all know what that is, if Nezuko ever kills another human being. He is quite literally putting his life on the line for the Kamado siblings. Also, a side note, I think the moment that I was like, oh, I might really like this guy, was right after Tanjiro got out of his bindings and ran towards Nezuko and away from Obanai, and Giyu grabs Obanai's arm and stares at him and holds on to that until Obanai literally has to force him out of it, long after it was proven that Nezuko was not going to kill Sanemi or try to kill Sanemi. I was like, that's their big brother right there. But this continues on. As we come to a close on Season 1, Giyu has gotten more time than pretty much any other Hashira so far, but he still is by far the most mysterious. Shinobu gets backstory in Season 1. We move on to Mugen Train where we meet Rengoku. We get backstory and we fall in love with him only to lose him. In Entertainment District, we learn about Tengen and we learn about his past. And then we move on to Swordsmith Village and we meet Mitsuri and Muichiro and we learn about their past. We get to know each one of these Hashiras that we go on a mission with, one by one, and we learn to understand them. But Giyu is still present, but still a mystery. And then we finally get to the new season. In episode 1, we come to a fruition in Giyu's story where he leaves the Hashira meeting early, saying that he's not like them, and all the other Hashira, having a distaste towards Giyu because of his standoffish nature, all think that he is saying that he believes that he is better than all of them, but it is not that. Demon Slayer is a story in which most of these characters come from very similar backgrounds. They lost all or some of their family to demons, and they're enacting revenge towards the demons now that they've lost things. They're trying to protect humanity by becoming demon slayers, and they're also trying to protect the future of other humans for not experiencing the pain that they've experienced. A lot of people say this is just, a repetitive story arc, when in fact it is the theming of the show, because these characters are putting their bodies on the line, their lives on the line every single day to protect humanity, and most of them have to go through that pain of losing loved ones due to demons in order to get there. I could go into a lot more deep theorizing onto why this is such an important part of the story, and it's not poor writing, but for the sake of this video, we'll move on from that. However, Giyu Tomioka, as we learn his backstory in the most recent episode, he's a little bit different, and this is why I started to fall in love with Giyu when I read this part in the manga even more. Outside of the fact that he is somewhat patient towards Tanjiro's annoying advances, yes, I'll say it, Tanjiro was a very annoying little brother in this episode. It is adorable, but what he is doing is not necessarily what he should have done. Giyu still is extremely patient towards that and doesn't really do anything. He just kind of sits there and takes it. And I think it's because he genuinely does have a soft spot for the Kamado siblings at this point in time. In fact, he's had a soft spot for them ever since he met them in that forest that day. And he even has a little bit of guilt, thinking that if he had arrived a little bit earlier, he could have protected his family. And while he knows that Muzan is the one that killed the Kamado family, and if he had shown up earlier, he would have just been a victim as well, there's probably a part of him that believes if he had at least been there, he could have saved one or more people that maybe Nezuko wouldn't have turned into a demon, or that he at least could have saved one of the other siblings. And this is shown by his backstory. Giyu's backstory's foundation is very similar to everyone else. He lost his sister right before she got married to a demon attack. And then he went to train as a demon slayer due to that, and in the final selection lost his best friend. But it goes deeper than that. Giyu's story is a little bit more relatable to us as an audience, because he struggles with survivor's guilt, but he also struggles with imposter syndrome, which I think is something that every single person usually experiences at some point in their life. Now, Giyu, of course, he is experiencing imposter syndrome in a way that most of us aren't ever going to experience. Quite literally, he did not do anything during final selection. He was unconscious almost the entire time. His friend killed all of the demons and was the only person that died. In fact, really, he should have been the only one to pass. And Giyu doesn't believe that he even has a right to be a demon slayer, let alone a Hashira. Imagine this. You are about to take an exam at college, and this exam is going to determine whether you graduate with your degree or not. On the very first question, you freak out because you don't know the answer, and you start to sweat, and you start to shake, and you can no longer even read the paper because of how nervous you are. Your friend then offers to answer the questions for you, which of course can't happen in real life. However, imagine this happened. They answer the questions for you, and once they finish your paper, time is up. They only got to answer a few questions on their test, so they fail it and don't get to graduate, but you do. Imagine the imposter syndrome that you would feel accepting that degree when your friend, who is the reason why you were able to graduate, is not getting their certificate. They're having to retake it. Obviously, this is a very different circumstance because your friend is still alive, and this is just straight up cheating on an exam. You shouldn't take that degree. You should not accept it. You should say that your friend did the exam for you and that they deserve the degree themselves, that you need to retake the year because you did not pass the test. But imagine you did. You accepted it because you had no choice. Your friend told you to do it. And then over the next few years, you work extremely hard at your job and become very, very good at it. And you become high level in whatever you do. Are you going to feel like you deserve to be side by side with other high-level people when you didn't even pass the exam that got you that degree, that got you into that job? No, you're going to think that you do not deserve it. But you still worked hard. You still deserve to be in the high-level position at your job because at your job you worked extremely hard. You never cut corners. You did everything that you were supposed to do. You deserve to be there, but you still don't feel like it. In your brain, you don't think that you should have even ever passed college. Now again, this is very different given the circumstance that in Giyu's case, Sabito not only is the only one who did anything during that test, he died and Giyu never got to see his best friend again. He lost the light in his eyes. But that gives us a sense for how things can happen. Giyu alienates himself from others because he doesn't think that he deserves to be with them, even though he worked extremely hard and earned the title of Hashira, rightfully so. He never thinks that he really is like them. He thinks that he cannot manifest the mark. These are all things that make me love him so much more. While his story starts the same way everyone else does, with loss, he learns a lot of different things about himself, and he alienates himself from others simply because he doesn't believe he deserves it. Giyu, in my opinion, is one of the best written characters in the story because of this. And while I say that having repetitive backstories is not necessarily a bad thing in the show, it's actually a very important theme, it is good to see a change in that narrative, that Giyu's story goes completely a different route, and also gives Tanjiro an opportunity to grow as well. My absolute favorite thing about Giyu is his relationship with Tanjiro. As we see in this new episode, Tanjiro is the annoying little brother. Tanjiro never gets to be a little brother. He's always the oldest. He's always the big brother. Even though he's technically the youngest of the trio, he still takes on that big brother role because he has to, based off of the personalities of the other two. But in a situation with Giyu, while he's able to help him in this moment and tell him the words that Giyu needs to hear, he's also able to just be the little brother. He looks up to Giyu exponentially so, and he has ever since the day he met him. I could go on and on and on about my love for Tanjiro and Giyu, and the fact that their relationship, that their dynamic, is quite literally my favorite dynamic in the entire story. But that I will save for the manga spoiler part of my video, because I will go into much greater length into that. But Giyu is so special. Giyu has experienced loss in a different way. He experiences guilt in a different way. And he doesn't think that he deserves. And while a lot of people can say, oh, he's just being dramatic and he's sulking, I think a lot of us can relate to that dark side that your brain can go to when things happen the way that they do. While most of us probably can't relate to the idea that we think we should have died instead of someone else because we're not in the situation that these demon slayers are in, I think we all can sit here and say that there are definitely some times in our life where we think that we don't deserve something that we get. And that can cause us to fall into a deep depression that is sometimes near impossible to get out of. Sometimes we need that certain person to get us out of it, and even then, they might not be successful. And while Giyu's story is honestly just beginning, it's also changing, and it's all because of one character, Tanjiro. Are you starting to see why I love these two so much that they're my top two? Tanjiro and Giyu are so important to me because of how well they work together with each other, and how well they fill in each other's gaps, with Tanjiro always being the big brother, finally getting the opportunity to be a little brother and look up to someone, while Giyu was always the little brother, now getting to play the big brother and finally having someone that he is going to be able to protect. I love these two with all my heart, and I will never shut up about them. Now let's move into the future of these two and why I love Giyu so much and Tanjiro so much and how they work together to make me the most emotional person on the planet when it comes to a TV show. So, major Demon Slayer manga spoilers ahead. If you have not read the manga past the newest episode, this is your chance to turn back. Come back when you have read it or when this part of the anime has been adapted, and let's go. Giyu's growth because of Tanjiro's influence on him is absolutely something that I could talk about for hours, but for the sake of not having a 5-hour-long video, I will just talk about it briefly. First, I want to say how special it is that Giyu and Tanjiro face off of Akaza. And it makes sense that Tanjiro, of course, would face off of Akaza because he has unfinished business with him. He had to stand there and watch as Rengoku protected him. But this time, when he faces off of Akaza, he gets to work with the other Hashira that he looks up to like a big brother, Giyu Tomioka. This fight is quite honestly what I'm looking forward to most in the next arc. Now, I'm looking forward to it all. I think every single fight scene and every single character development moment within the Infinity Castle arc, when animated, is going to absolutely wreck me and have me just not able to think about anything else in life outside of Demon Slayer. It's gonna be great. The fight against Akaza is a little bit different because it's personal to us as an audience. It's personal to Tanjiro, and now he is getting to fight alongside his other big brother. But throughout this, Giyu's development in just this fight alone is something that is so incredible to me. It's only been a few months since Tanjiro kind of forced his way into Giyu's life, and at the end of this fight, Giyu is quite literally telling Akaza that he has to kill him if he's going to kill Tanjiro. Akaza is going after an unconscious Tanjiro, and Giyu puts his body in front of him and says that if you want to kill Tanjiro, you have to first defeat me. This is probably going to be one of my absolute favorite scenes in the entire show once it is animated. I can only imagine the voice acting during this, as well as the music and the emotions of being in the throes of battle, watching this unfold on our screens. Tanjiro is being protected by the man who was shut out, by the man who alienated himself from everyone else. Giyu finally has someone to protect. He's found his meaning in life. He believes that he can atone for everything else in the past with Sabito by allowing Tanjiro to live through this night. And because of that, he unlocks his new abilities. He's able to unlock the Demon Slayer mark and they're able to survive this fight against Akaza. Then we move on to the fight against Muzan. Giyu and Tanjiro get split up a little bit more during this fight because Tanjiro spends most of it completely out of the battle, almost dead, but Giyu still has this desire to protect Tanjiro a lot. It's growing more and more and more, and he continues to just force himself to carry on this fight to protect Tanjiro, even if it means giving up his own life, like Sabito did. Personally, I think in this entire last 2 arcs, which of course only take part over one day, over one night, I think Giyu is promising himself that even if it means he loses his own life, he at least has to protect Tanjiro. He has to protect the Kamado siblings. He has to let them have a normal life after this. And if he can protect Tanjiro even at the cost of his own life, he can finally atone for the gift that Sabito gave him. But of course, there is a moment where he thinks he was unable to do that. If Tanjiro had actually passed away in this fight and not been turned into a demon, I believe that Giyu might have found himself spiraling back into what he was before Tanjiro was able to weasel his way in. Giyu has spent his life being protected by others, and in this moment, Tanjiro protected him. Tanjiro protected everyone by dealing the final blow that caused Muzan to finally start to disintegrate. Giyu thinks once again that he's not worthy of love and begins to cry, and this scene I will not be able to recover from. I'm just saying this is not going to go well for me when this is animated at all. But of course, as we know, Tanjiro gets turned into a demon, he is changed back into a human shortly after, and the battle is over. Giyu has successfully protected Tanjiro from killing anyone at this point, and now they can live happily ever after. Giyu is a character that is so personal to me because I think, like I've said, all of us can relate to him in some way. The survivor's guilt might not be something that we can all relate to because that is something that doesn't happen quite as often in real life. It's so easy for us to alienate ourselves from other people that we don't think that we're worthy of being friends with because of something that happened in our life. Giyu's is extremely extreme, but it is still so important for us as an audience to understand that. Giyu is such a well-written character, and I think now that his backstory has been animated, finally the anime-onlys will start to understand. But before this video gets too long and I just continue to ramble and ramble and ramble, I just want to say that Ufotable did a absolutely spectacular job at animating Giyu's backstory. I am so happy that they did it so much justice, giving more time to Sabito, giving more time to Tanjiro talking through his feelings, and giving Giyu the opportunity to see the light once again, and I cannot wait to see what is to come animated. But that is it for today's episode. If you liked this video, please like this video. Also subscribe to the channel. I have videos coming out Mondays and Thursdays at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Mondays are of course reserved for episode reviews, and Thursdays are for whatever I feel like doing that week. So if you want to check it out, subscribe to my channel. Also, you can click on that notification bell so you get notified whenever I post a new video. And leave a comment. Do you like Giyu? Where does he land in your favorite character list? Is he your favorite? Is he your second favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you all next week. Jane!